So in the recent years, more and more people have been asking, is a college degree still worth it? In the past, it seemed like it definitely was, where people were pushing it hard, go to college. But nowadays, as college prices are increasing, is it still worth it? We have all heard the story of those that go to college. They get a degree, but they still struggle to get a job in the workforce. So, have we reached that break-even point where it's like, well, maybe it's not worth it anymore? And if we haven't, then what is next? And to start this discussion, let's start off with the cost of college, right? And if we look at just the average tuition costs and room and board costs, over the last couple of years, the average tuition plus room and board, the college expenses of the average public university, right? This is not a Harvard or a Stanford, this is public universities, is right around $24,000 a year, right? And if it's a private university, it's about twice that, almost $50,000 a year. And the average college student, to get their bachelor's degree, it takes them about 4.5, 5 years. So for the average Joe, it is definitely gonna cost more than $100,000 to go to college. That's not everyone, that's not including scholarships or grants or anything like that. But for the average cost, for the average Joe, it's gonna cost well over $100,000 to go to college. Not to mention the lost income that you would have had if you would have worked during that time, or the interest that you're gonna pay on those student loans getting out. So now that we know how much college costs, right? Now let's look at what college gives the average Joe, the average bachelor's degree holder, right? So if you look over the last couple of years and you compare those with a degree to those that only have a high school diploma, right? And if you compare those salaries, if you look straight at the numbers, right? If you don't look at anything else but their salaries, the average bachelor degree holder makes $30,000 more than their high school diploma counterparts. Now, if you would have gone on to get a master's degree, the average master's degree graduate earns $20,000 more than that. So a total of $50,000 more than their high school diploma counterpart, right? So just based on those numbers, the numbers check out. The numbers make a ton of sense that college still makes sense. The return on investment is there. We're only after a few years be able to pay all your loans back, as well as be able to make that salary for the rest of your life. So it still makes sense. So where do people have an issue with college, right? There's still lots of sentiment out there where some people don't like it, right? And for entrepreneurs and other things like that, you don't need a degree all the time, right? It's not always necessary. But where is the problem with college? I guess you could say it that way, right? And all I could say is all majors, all degrees are not created equal. So we know that the engineers, the data scientists, the data analytics people that come out of college, they're able to make large sums of money right out of college where they skew the results near the top, right? But others that maybe have liberal arts degrees or history degrees or English degrees where they're not directly applicable into a job in the workforce, they may struggle to get a job right out of college until they get some experience, right? So it's going to be skewed based on what major you get and your ability to apply that straight into the job market. So my best advice, if you're going to go to college, of course, money is not everything, right? Getting a degree that doesn't make as much is not always bad. You have to do something you enjoy. That's important. Just go in with your eyes wide open of knowing what the job prospects are after, to know what you are probably going to make and how easy or difficult it will be to find a job in that field. So at this point, if you just said, okay, I believe that college is still worth it, I still want to go, I just want to try to reduce the cost to me as much as possible and to really not have to use any loans if at all possible. And there are lots of ways that you can go about this, right? Scholarships and grants are an incredible way to really reduce the cost of college. Last year, the government paid out over $500 billion, billion with a B, right? $500 billion in grants. And grants from the federal government are often needs-based. Basically, those with lower incomes, with families with lower incomes, will often get these more often, where they apply for assistance through FAFSA and other things, and they get assistance through federal grants to help pay for college. And it's also important to note that the four-year institution, a university, is not the only option, right? Community colleges now offer very similar classes that they can then transfer to larger organizations, larger colleges, universities down the road. So you can get identical degrees, just pay half the price, if not cheaper, for the first couple of years of college. That can make a huge difference over the course of getting an education, right? And it's also super important to realize that college is not the only options, right? With everyone being pushed into college, where everyone's go to college, go to college, go to college, they pound it into us. It's important to realize that trade schools are becoming a more and more attractive option, especially now that very few people are going into them, which means that those salaries of those jobs are going to increase as the demand for them increases, because we're always going to need plumbers and construction workers and these people to do these jobs. But as less people go into those fields, the demand for them are going to only increase and can be a super attractive option for many people, especially if a university or the school thing is not exactly the right fit for them. So a quick recap. We know that college can be an incredible investment in yourself and in your future. Just make sure you make educated decisions about what you study, how you do it, and all the aid, the scholarships that you are eligible for to really reduce your bill as much as possible to set yourself up for success down the road. Not having student loans can really be a huge deal for you and your financial future, your future family down the road. So hopefully this is helpful for you. If you have any questions, comments, put in the comments below. I'll get to them as best I can, and I will see you next week.